The regulation of flavors in tobacco products. So I talked about this in a video last month where I discussed the potential flavor ban being proposed by the FDA, and I wanted to bring it up again as we get closer to the deadline for submitting a comment on the Federal Register website. The original deadline was originally in June, but the FDA decided to extend that deadline until July 19th. But don't hold off until the last minute because your comment might take some time to write. So just to fill you in a little bit, the FDA has submitted a proposed rule on flavored tobacco products, which will include e-juice because vaping is regulated as tobacco. And that means if this proposed rule goes into effect, we may no longer have flavored e-juice other than tobacco and menthol. Anyone who vapes can tell you how much that would suck. It would kill the industry, and many people would probably just go back to smoking. One of the ways you can fight back right now would be to submit your comment on the Federal Register, which will go to regulations.gov. Don't be offensive in your comment, and you must act like an upstanding, mature citizen. Regulations.gov also has a downloadable tip sheet for submitting comments, but here's the short version. If you want your comment to matter, it should be constructive and informational. They don't want an essay, but they want you to support your claims. So if you're making a scientific claim, you should add scientific evidence to back it up. And you can also explain how you will be personally impacted by the rules. If you disagree with the rule, suggest an alternative. If you have credentials that will set you apart from other comments, for example, being a doctor, lawyer, shop owner, or some other relevant expertise, mention that too. And they also ask that you address opposing views in your comment and address the trade-offs. You don't have to comment on everything, just on the points that matter the most to you. And here's what they're specifically looking for. The roles that flavors play in tobacco use with youth, the role that flavors play in helping adult smokers reduce or quit smoking, the perceptions that the public has in regards to the health risks and addictiveness of flavored tobacco products, if certain flavors have potential negative effects to the user or nearby people, and what the impact of regulations might be. Now, something to point out here is that the FDA is not looking for personal anecdotes unless it's backed up by data. So for example, if you're going to talk about how flavors helped you quit smoking, share your personal story, but also point out a study that backs up your claim. CASA.org published a post on their site that mentions a few points that you could discuss, such as how many flavors you use or have currently, how you lock your bottles away from kids, what your favorite flavors are, and where you purchase your e-liquid and why you purchase it from there, for example, from a vape shop or a convenience store. And there's a great spreadsheet listed in the sidebar of the electronic cigarette subreddit titled Scientific Publications, and it has a ton of vaping studies. Not all of them are pro-vaping, so be sure to review them before picking something at random, but it's completely up to date. VapeMentors.com has also put together an awesome spreadsheet with a list of studies that are focused on their pro-vaping studies. So check those out too, and I'll post links to all of this stuff in the notes. Now here's the hard part. You need to write that comment, and I realize that this comment is a little more difficult than these types of things usually are, so I wanted to share my own comment to help you get started. But basically, I shared my quitting story. I talked about how flavors played a role, and then I searched in Google for studies related to my main claims. So here's what I wrote. I'm a marketer by trade and a scientific researcher by hobby, particularly in health and fitness. Relevant studies for my comments are listed at the bottom. I started smoking when I was in middle school and continued until the age of 28, which was when I bought my first electronic cigarette. I started vaping 8 years ago with the sole purpose of quitting smoking. At first I thought I wanted tobacco flavors, but I quickly found myself using only vanilla, chocolate, and mint flavored e-juice. Part of my goal in quitting smoking was to remove my desire for tobacco, and not vaping tobacco flavored e-juice was a part of that decision. But also because I like the flavors much more, which is common among vapors. Over the course of 3 months, I reduced my nicotine levels from 18 milligrams to 0. By the end of the 3rd month, I was completely off of cigarettes, and I no longer craved nicotine, so I quit vaping too. In my own experience, the nicotine detached from a cigarette was far less addictive, which made quitting easy. I was a non-smoker and non-vapor for 5 years after quitting, until I started reading studies showing the cognitive benefits of using nicotine. At the time, I struggled with attention and focus at work, so I decided to try vaping again, and it seemed to work. The results were minimal, but enough to make me want to keep doing it, so that's why I continue to vape today. I don't vape heavily, just a couple of times per day, and I still have not smoked a cigarette since 2010. So that was my comment, and then I listed 3 relevant studies. Not all of them related to flavors, but related to my story. One of them showed how vapors consider flavor variability being important, very important to them. And another study showed how nicotine removed from smoking is less addictive than nicotine gum. and nicotine gum on its own is also considered not very addictive. So a good study for that one. And finally, a study showing an analysis of 41 studies that showed the positive brain-enhancing benefits of nicotine. So yeah, that's it. I hope you found all that useful, and if you haven't already submitted a comment, please do so before it's too late. I'll also put a link in the description to where you can go and submit that comment, but I've also created a short link. So just go to vapepassion.com/flavor comment, and you'll be redirected right to that page.